everyone, and welcome Michelle to Witch Bitch, where we talk the real tea. Oh, I'm so excited to have you on again, Michelle, because last time I was incredibly sick.
Juicy.
Yes, and I was sick. I couldn't even talk. I just had
that's
to.
right.
I remember that.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was really hard for me to get out of bed that day, but I'm so glad I did. I remember that day so vividly, actually. But today, I'm not sick anymore. So, I can feel the energy a bit more and like put more of my heart space into the call, into the live. So, because we usually start off our shows asking the awakening story of each guest, we've already done that. So we can't start it that way this time. So what I was thinking is talking a bit about the hero's journey, like how you were talking about on your website, and we can just start off from there and see where it morphs into, like what flows out of the starting point. So I would like to ask you a bit about your hero's journey and like how you perceive the hero's journey to be. Big question. So
that is a huge question.
It is a huge question. Yeah. Juicy, very juicy. So the hero's journey conceptually, it was coined by Joseph Campbell. If anyone's really interested in learning more about the idea, if they don't already know, you can just put it in your search engine, and if you click on images, a ton of different images will come up that will show sort of the process of the hero's journey. And typically it's in a circle. But the image that I've seen that I show to my clients, usually in our first session, is one that's actually a spiral. I love that so much. And to me, there isn't just one hero's journey. Once you agree to the first call, and this is a piece, one of the steps of the hero's journey is typically refusal of the call. So a lot of times we might be presented with some type of push from the universe. It's time, divine alarm clock, let's wake up, let's start to change things up. And we might go there a little bit, but then sort of retreat. And we might refuse the call. And if anything, it's common to refuse the call to some extent. And then the universe will keep sort of hitting you over the head until you're sort of forced to agree to the call. And to me, life is sort of like just a never-ending sequence of heroes' journeys. And some are really intense. Some are, we go into the bowels of the shadow and the dark and the underworld. Some take place in lighter frequencies, higher vibe frequencies. Some combine all of it. To me, the hero's journey, though, conceptually, and in terms of how we can apply it to our understanding of our journeys here, is that it creates the possibility for us to access duality. So obviously this entire realm is polarized and made up of dualities, but when we're asleep, when we're unconscious, we don't know that. We don't get that, So a lot of times the hero's journey will give us sort of an opportunity to begin to perceive the dualities. And what that does is it creates a tension. It creates a tension so that we can start to choose, because now we see our choices. And for me, much of the hero's journey has been about finding that middle path, that edge of the coin. So heads or tails, black or white, yin or yang, right? It's sort of like the merging of that divine union within. The masculine and the feminine, the lock and the key, Mary Magdalene, just integrating the masculine and feminine in all dualities within. So that's sort of how I see it, because I believe that that's really what we're meant to do. My perspective is that we're all source fractal. We're all gods with amnesia, and we have so much power here. And we absolutely are just we're superheroes. We're
Mm.
superheroes. We just don't remember, you know?
Yeah, so true. That's a really big responsibility. Like knowing that you're like it kind of brings up that scene in Spider-Man when Spider-Man's uncle says to him, with power comes great responsibility.
Yes.
And so I think that's really important to understand why we say no to the hero's journey in the first place, why we're resisting it, why we're saying, oh no, I'm not going to look over there. That's way too difficult. That's too much of a heavy burden to carry. I mean, that's the feeling that I get.
Yeah.
When I think about having to go on a journey and discover myself and my hero abilities and all my magic, and you know, waking up is Juliet's coined the term beautifully, I think, in our last live video, where she said when you open your eyes and for the first time and it's painful, like your eyes are like just opening up to the reality,
to the light.
And it's for the first time it's painful to open your eyes and see things.
And it's interesting, like the eye itself, what it represents. It's the I am. It's the I am. It's what we see. Do you see the sea? It's literally everything happening through the eyeballs because we're creating it. You know?
That's right.
So
through the eyeballs.
Yeah, it is, because we live in such a physical world in the Matrix. So everything is about what you can see. And some people use that to their own detriment, and it creates so much, I don't know, sadness and just like really heavy energy. But then it depends on how you choose to look at it, because if you open that third eye that's non-physical, it turns your life as you dream it to be into physical reality. So it's like activating that hero's journey, that third eye, because I feel like the third eye really is the hero's journey. And when you're talking about duality, it's like it's literally in the middle of the two sides. Like it's on that center point.
The edge of the coin.
Yeah, on the edge of the coin.
Such a good point, Juliet. I never really thought about that, but it's on the edge of the coin. Absolutely.
So when you use that tool that we all have to open to the inner superhero and the inner self
and the magic
and the magic of life, it then turns reality to like ways that you could never imagine it to be. And it's like then becoming a reflection. And that reflection is really hard at the moment. That's what I'm dealing with, because you know, you can, again, polarity, you can never have the good without the bad. So like the bad also likes to manifest itself sometimes. And or I don't want to even say bad, but the darkness. Because like this week,
the heavy stuff.
This week I've really been feeling it, but I've also been feeling light as well. And it's just like I don't even know where I'm at. It's just like really confusing. So today it's come to a bit of a peak, and it's all in my head. I can really feel like how strongly I am in my head. And so I just like did a bit of a journaling, self-healing sort of thing before coming on, where I went into my heart instead. And it's just like the difference is just crazy.
Yeah, it's like turning the top on a pressure cooker and letting the steam out.
Exactly.
What we're talking about here kind of gives me this feeling of you know, journeying that third eye and opening up and being the superhero and discovering our talents and our powers. It gives me this sense of being a child, like that children can do those things and play in that realm so easily and so without fear. And I feel like it's as we grow, as we get older, those layers of programming come on top of us and start to dull our senses and dull that playfulness in us as children. And so it's like an unraveling of those layers to get back to that inner child and that playfulness, and not be so afraid of it, you know, and see it as, you're a witch with your cauldron and you're making your spells and, that sort of thing. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, we remember when we're children, everything is magic. Everything is magic. And it's interesting how, like, for example, like stories about the Tooth Fairy or Santa Claus or, all of those types of stories, it's almost like an inversion because it's like magic, but it's not the real magic. And if we were able to focus on like the real magic, although there's truth in those stories, there's a lot of gnosis, in those actual stories in terms of alchemical symbology and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of truth in it, but it's like, we don't even need to make up stories. We don't need to. Like, it's magic happening all around us all the time. And when we start to remember and wake up to that, it's almost like a lot of times we are afraid of it, and so, we might sort of shrink back down, or a lot of us, like, I know for me on my path, a big part of my path for like 2 or 3 years in a row was like facing my own demons. At the time I felt like I was experiencing all of this interference, energetic interference, demons.
Yeah.
And now that I look back, I'm like, I have this knowing that it was actually like my own shadow, my own psyche, like creating that.
Yes.
So that I could accept it and integrate it and then, move on from there.
That's where I'm at right now. That's
okay.
I'm in that part of my journey right now.
Yeah.
Is seeing the shadow and being confronted by that reality and trying to love and accept those parts of myself.
Yes.
As they're being shown to me, because they are coming in thick and fast.
Yes.
And having like kind of like knowing that they're parts, because they feel new to me. It all feels kind of new because they were so buried.
Yeah.
So that I've always been a part of me and they've always existed, and that I can still move on and be who I am, knowing that they're there.
Right.
Accept that they're there,
Right. Exactly. Shining light on the unconscious, bringing it to the surface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a challenge, huge challenge. Especially doing this show and talking about it in public as well. I mean, it's such a beautiful thing because it will connect with people and help so many people feel like they're not alone. But for me to do that on camera and to say things like that on camera and be so honest on camera is a confronting thing.
So I was just checking Facebook, making sure it was all good.
It's confronting.
Exactly what I was thinking, even Juliet, when you were talking about how you were feeling today, but then you journaled, and I was thinking, but you're here. Yeah. So, because I know for me in the past, a lot of times I would self-sabotage if I was feeling like I wasn't at my best.
Yes.
So true. That ego is assigning, on myself. And part of it, I think, is just showing up in our authenticity. There's no way that we're going to even experience wellness if we are not authentic to begin with.
Yes.
That's a major issue right there, is years of, we don't even know we're not being authentic, right? Yeah. We've just developed all of these trauma responses and coping mechanisms and behaviors to sort of help us feel safe.
Yeah.
And so to agree, this is part of the hero's journey. Like, Claudia, it's such a vulnerable time, you feel so vulnerable, and to show up and say, this is what I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
This is where I'm at. It's so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. And the motivation for doing this 100% is that what you've just described there was our motivation for doing this, and our motivation to show up when we're not feeling the best.
Yeah.
Because it is powerful. That's our superpower.
It is.
And the responsibility that we feel in showing up and being our authentic selves. I just got goosebumps saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah. because it's true.
I totally hear you. I've been thinking a lot about how, you know, all the choices that we make before we're conscious, are therefore unconscious and therefore unintentional, right? Like I know for me, you know, my marriage, even having children, not that I'm not so grateful my children are here, but I was very unconscious when I made a lot of decisions. A lot of our choices are made from unconscious trauma responses as well, you know, like repeating patterns, and, you know, marriages are a big thing, you know, a big example of that. And just the immensity of the worlds that we create from unconsciousness and unintentionality. We create entire worlds.
Yeah.
My world, your world, our worlds together. We're not even really thinking. We're not really conscious. We're, you know, we're doing the things, but it's not from a space of consciousness.
Yeah.
And
so true.
And I mean, it's just incredible what we create, you know, talking about the eye, what we're creating through the eyes, right?
Yeah.
And so then you come into consciousness, and to me, part of that is, you know, being intentional, intentionally intentional. And so now you're in this space. And so everything that is a responsibility, like to be intentional, you know, because you're a conscious creator. So I am intentional now. I've had things come back even from like 20 years ago, where like I entered into some relationship or any type of relationship from an unconscious space, just kind of like, oh, hey, I'm here, you're here, what's up, peace, you know?
Yeah.
And things have like come back around with this opportunity for me to show up with intention. It's very karmic. And so from that space, I've been thinking a lot about this idea of like, we made our beds when we were unconscious. Now we get to lie in it. And I don't mean that in a negative way, like all my air quotes. I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that from a space of, that's awesome because we can do it. You know, it's like we reap what we sow. And I know even in the past for me, sometimes like I would run away from the tough stuff. Like, we're in this space now where it's like, we have to have the hard conversations. We have to do the hard things. We reaped what we sow. We can look at our lives and what we created from unconsciousness and see what's kind of sucky about it, but we have to deal with it with intention, with consciousness.
Yeah.
And we can say this within our microcosm, but also, you know, collectively, you know, from a macrocosm perspective. So, it's really fascinating and astonishing because, you know, we actually can do this. We can.
Yes.
But we have to heal a significant portion of trauma and things like that before we feel like we're really up to the task. And that's what we've been doing in the years prior, right?
I think that, you know, the whole you made the bed when you're through unconsciousness and now you have to lie in it. It's so true. And I think when that bed that we all created from unconsciousness gives us exactly what we need to learn. It's like we're creating the workshop that we need for ourselves to grow. And then, it's like the way to become our best version of ourselves. We have to be in that dark, deep, like blinded state and just like kind of make things up in reality that you're not thinking about. So when you are thinking about it, you know, you're looking at what you weren't thinking about before and being like, why wasn't I thinking about that? And it all links back to the trauma, like how you were talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, and going back to the like the authenticity and like how I'm not feeling good today, there's so much ego thoughts of, because I'm not feeling good, let's just give myself a cookie, or let's just give myself like food is a really big thing that comes up for me, at least recently it has been. It's like, let's just have a cookie, or let's just have some chocolate cereal, or let's just have this to make myself feel better. And it's like, no, no, I just can be in this space and that's all right. And let's like try not to judge it, try not to fix it, or try not, you know, don't reward myself with things that are just going to make me feel even worse. You know, there's a line here because, you know, putting so much meaning to food is one thing, but every now and then you can treat yourself, sure, but not as a way to rely to make yourself feel better.
Yeah, mood leveler.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's just like that was what I was going through this morning. And I mean, so much is coming up for the divine feminine, which is I actually, if people notice, that's what I called this, the feminine hero's journey. But then we had to make a new live. And for some reason I felt, let's just do the hero's journey and be a bit more open.
I just noticed that. Noticed that you
so I didn't include it in the second one that we had to make. So I'm like, let's just be open and see where it goes. But feminine's coming up. So this week has been like all about the divine feminine, and I'm talking to all these women, and it's like everyone's going through the divine feminine that I'm talking to. And for me, it's been like really hard because I haven't wanted to own it. I haven't wanted to look at it. I've done that unconscious. I've made the bed from unconsciousness. And now this week I'm lying in that bed about the divine feminine, and I'm like going through a war zone a little bit. So I'm going through that part of the hero's journey. And it's super intense. So it's like putting so much meaning to small things in life is one thing that I think comes up for so many people when we're not feeling our best. Like putting something I know I do is like putting meaning to food with junk food and saying it will make me feel better, or let's just treat ourselves when we're not feeling great. But it happens all the time. It's not just like a once in a blue moon sort of thing. And then it's also when it comes to messages from the universe, like another thing that happened, I know this is kind of off on another road, but I'm just going to keep looking. Another thing that happened was this week, I've had so many videos and ads about cancer come up on my page.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm like,
me too.
What are you telling me, universe? Are you telling me I have cancer? Like putting so much meaning onto it, like thinking, oh my God, do I have cancer? Is that what this message is? And
but sometimes the messages aren't from the universe.
No,
they're fabricated.
And also sometimes messages are from the body, are from the universe, but they might not come. Like, for example, maybe all these ads are being pushed out for a reason, but then at the same time,
I was getting the same. I was getting the same ones.
But at the same time, your higher self is accepting them. Because if you were like, no, let's just not accept it, then we would. Like, I wouldn't even notice. I wouldn't be talking about it.
Yeah, right.
But because I noticed there's a higher level of, like, there's something here for me to look at. And so I was in, like, a panic state, like, what's this message trying to tell me? Do I have cancer or something? I was like, okay, let's just take a breath because I know I don't have cancer. So let's just sit on the toilet because that's the only place that I can have peace when I'm babysitting. So let's sit on the toilet and like breathe and receive the actual message. And it was nothing to do with cancer. It was just about like love and being okay with, like saying no to the treats and like creating that higher frequency within my body and not like putting so much meaning or attachment to food and to exercise and to all this sort of thing and just like eat with love.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay. So a couple things. Can I have your permission to tell you something that was coming through in terms of this cancer piece? It totally connects to what you just said. And obviously you know it for yourself more than anything I could ever say. But to me, cancer represents emotions, right? In terms of the astrological sign. And you talking about integrating the divine feminine. It's all about giving ourselves permission to have the big feelings, have the experience of the feelings, and knowing that we're safe to have the feelings. Because, this idea of cancer comes to us and, everybody's like, oh my gosh, nobody wants that, right? So it's a feeling of being unsafe, right? And so it's all about knowing that we're safe. And when I say safe, I just mean safe to have the feeling, like safe to have the experience of the feeling, right? So okay, so there was that piece. What was the other thing? Sometimes my brain is like, because I'll get like 10 thoughts at once and I'm like, okay, I'm going to hook that one in and speak that one. Okay, when we're talking about love, can you share a little more about that? Love.
It means being okay with who I am in every moment, even if I don't actually enjoy every version of myself. Like in that moment, if I'm not liking something that I'm doing, if I'm eating something out of attachment, still loving that anyway, still being kind.
It's so hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so because that's what I was thinking when you were talking about food, exercise, things like that. Like we get so rigid, like a lot of times, like let's say I have some really regimented, disciplined schedule where it's like I wake up every morning, I go for a 2-mile run, I do some yoga, I make my smoothie, right? Like all of that. Like it looks like outside, and by the way, none of that is true. On the outside looking in, it might look like, wow, she's really got together, right? She's really self-loving, right? But for me, I don't feel free.
No, I don't either. Yeah.
A lot. I don't feel free. I want to be able to do what my body feels it needs in the moment. Or just even just like, even mentally, like we can go into the head with it too. Like, what do I want right now? What do I feel like I want? Giving ourselves that permission to flow, which is very much the feminine, right? Instead of trapping ourselves in some idea of like, now we're successful, or now we're evolved, or now we're enlightened, or now we're fit, or, just flowing inside it. And anything other than that for me feels like prison bars, and feels like, it feels like I'm not free. So I'm just putting that out there. Like if you want to have, next time you want to have chocolate cereal, you message me and I'll get some chocolate cereal and we'll sit together, and Claudia, you too, and we'll all eat chocolate cereal and just,
and we'll love ourselves while we're doing it.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a fine line, like with self-harm,
Yes.
We don't want to be self-harming, sabotaging ourselves. We're going to feel worse, but this is a process, and trusting the process, trusting the process,
Yeah, that's so true. I know for me personally, because I'm going through, I feel like when women especially, I mean, we all know it here, every woman watching this knows, but like when you're younger, especially, it is such a program that is embedded in every way of life, especially my generation, where now the elites can just like put an ad on our phone, send us videos. Like they're in control of the internet. They can push whatever videos they want onto our page. So it's just such a strong like program. And when I was a bit younger, I'm not so under that program anymore. Don't get me wrong. There's still days where I feel it, and there's still like I'm still coming out of it. But I remember, especially when I first woke up, that was the biggest program that came up for me, because I was walking into this new spiritual world where all the women around me were eating like vegan, or eating like really, really, really healthy, like plant-based, mostly plant-based, at least, like food. And it was all bright and colorful, and they were exercising, and they were, it was just so much around the body, like so much focus around the body. And so I'm like, well, if I am going to be spiritual, if I'm awake, that's what I need to do. And I'm not saying that these women who were posting those videos had that intention, but it was just because I already had those programs. That's how I interpreted it. And so I went down that road like you were talking about, which is so masculine, which is kind of ironic because it's about the body, and my body is feminine. So it's like, but it was so masculine, like wake up early, go for a run, eat this meal at this time, this meal, like even intermittent fasting felt so like rigid, because it was like, okay, well, I can eat at 10 a.m. and then I stop at 6 and that's it. And it was just like, I wasn't enjoying it, and I felt really trapped in that. And luckily, I now see, a couple of years later, that's not the life that I want to live anymore.
Well, you tried it.
Yeah, I tried it, and I couldn't keep up with it, because it was just like I felt more trapped in that lifestyle than I did eating junk food.
Yeah.
I felt lower in vibration than I did
Yes.
eating, like, the unhealthy food sort of thing that likes to be labeled in our society.
Yes.
So yeah, it was just such a big learning curve, and I'm like finding my way to find that flow, because every day is different, and it's like every day you have to start new to figure out how to find the flow. And some days it comes naturally, and some days you don't even have to think about it, you're just doing. And then other days it's like, I don't want to do anything, but I have to get up because I've got work or I've got this. It's like, and finding the flow in the things that I don't want to do. And it's just like, it's a very long journey.
I think it's so gorgeous that you had that whole experience, though, because I feel like I know for myself, anytime that I've been like presented with external information that I was like comparing myself to, and then, taking actions to try to measure up to it, like those types of regimens, for example, ultimately what always ends up happening is it pushes us back to ourselves again, doesn't it? It pushes, which is the feminine. Like, what do I think about this? What do I need? What do I feel? Like every single time it pushes us back to ourselves. And I feel like that's sort of like the point of all the programs is, again, it presents that, it gives us that mirror so that we can either reflect on it and see if there's something within us that we can work on, that we can heal. But a lot of times it will end up presenting an opposite. So this is something I've been experiencing a lot lately, is giving myself, because I'm Sybil and there's 50 of me, giving myself permission to look in the mirror and be like, I don't like that. And that's not me. Like, I don't resonate with that. And it's not something that I have to change about myself. It's just there to show me the opposite and create that tension so that I can choose something that resonates for me. And even like, so I have this thing right now where every time I say the word spiritual, I have to say it like this: spiritual, spiritual, because it's like the coffee talk ladies on Saturday Night Live, Oh my goodness, so spiritual. I feel like the new age, like everything, like everything has been so just beaten into us and like hijacked and inverted, and it's purposed because it's all there for us to come back to ourselves. But all I can say is, if I see a herd of people thinking one thing, I'm probably going to go the other way because what I think or feel is not going to be there, So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to, do my thing and discover for myself,
Yeah, so true. And what you're saying is like, it's making me reflect on myself, because I used to be the person that would see that crowd and want to go there towards them because I would feel safe. Safety in numbers, like I'm going to hang out with those guys. Realizing now that I used to do that was one of my programs. And because I don't do it anymore, I do have a lot of solitude time. I have a lot of time to myself. And finding the judgments coming up in me, like, Claude, you're on your own, you've got no friends. Like, I mean, I do have friends. It's just the ego speaking to me.
Judge me.
Judge it. Yeah, of course. I mean, it's not true. It's completely not true. But when you find yourself alone, you're like, all of a sudden, like when I find myself alone, all of a sudden I look around and go, where's all my mates? Like, you're by yourself. I'm Nigel, no friends.
Yeah, it's the lone wolf sort of psychology.
Yeah, and then I have this spinning wheel, like the one on the Mac, the little rainbow spinning wheel going around in my brain. That's like a little hamster wheel, you know, that's saying to me the same things all the time. You're a Nigel, no friends. You've got, you know, you're on your own. You need to, you know, go out there and get yourself some friends, Claudia. But then there's this other side of me that's like, yes, thank you for that. I hear you, but I don't need to do that anymore. That's not who I am anymore. And
that's
being
really
okay
interesting
with that whole thing. Yeah.
Well, there's like this so there's the layer of like, you know, this idea, so much of what we were told about life was a lie, right? So like, what is belonging? What is friendship? You know,
it's relearning everything, redefining it for yourself, giving it your own meaning.
Yeah.
And not having to subscribe to what we, you know, it's unlearning, it's unbecoming who you've grown into be.
Yes.
Through the programming of your life and of your childhood and of society and everything, and your parents and everything. It's unlayering all of that, and it's abscribing, I think, to new meanings to those things in your life and what it means to you, and then creating around that individual fingerprint of your learning, of your feelings, of your inner being coming out. And it's just, you know, like, it's just the macro and the micro of it just blows my mind sometimes.
Yeah. And not relying on other people.
It's astonishing.
Yeah,
what's
it
that?
is.
What'd you say, Juliet?
I said it's sorry.
You're right.
It's like when Mum was talking, what came to me was about not relying on other people, on that like pack mentality.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, look, I'm not saying that in a way of be by yourself.
No.
But just don't change you for other people. Like, don't go towards a crowd of people just because there's other people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Meet your own needs first.
And if a crowd of people come, which is most likely the outcome, they'll be like-minded and the right people for you.
Yeah.
So
stay
like,
in the center. Sort your core out. Like, concentrate on that inner core of yourself and nurture that. And instead of looking outside yourself for those needs to be met. And then once you have that, you know, well, you know, I'm okay being alone, or I'm okay with this, or I'm okay with that. And this is what that means to me. This is the feeling I get when I have this in my life, you know, those things, and that's okay. And you're not judging that anymore.
Right.
Because you're ascribing your own meanings to things.
Yes.
That is when your life starts to fall in, like, things start to fall into place for you, and then those people will come, and you won't be alone, but you will, those people will understand, okay, Claude's just going off because she needs to be alone for a while. Right. And that's okay.
Right.
Because they think they have similar feelings.
They'll get it.
Yeah, they'll get it.
Totally. Yeah. Quality over quantity, right? Quality over quantity. And how do we find what resonates with us?
Yeah.
How do we find reciprocal connections if we're not giving ourselves what resonates for us?
Exactly.
Right? If we don't even know, like who we are or what we like, you know, I love to play with, and you know, this is within, there are some constraints. Like, for example, you know, I have 3 children. They need me for things, especially my 2 younger ones. So I can't like do this about everything, but I like to play with, like, just as often as is possible, doing exactly what I feel and I want, like exactly what I feel. Like, what do I feel right now? What do I want to do? Now, this is a little bit of a slippery slope. Because we also, you know, there's this do no harm piece. So it's important. I just have to put this stuff out there because there's so many inversions within, again, the spiritual community, which is kind of self-absorbed. Like, respecting other people's time. So, like, you remember Claudia, like with you, like we had scheduled this for a week prior, but I looked at my calendar. I saw that we had guests staying for the week and that they were leaving that day. And I knew I would probably be energetically needing some alone time.
Yeah.
And so I reached out and said, can we change it? Because I didn't want to message you the day of and respect, dishonor both of your time. So there is a, do no harm there. If we're loving, if we're honoring of ourselves, then it's very easy to honor other people as well. And there are ways to balance all of this, right?
Yes.
But as often as possible, trying to lead from a space of what we know we need, what we feel, what we want to do. And also the more we do that, the more we know ourselves, the more we can start to predict. I know for myself, even physical cycles, like I know if I'm going to be ovulating, I'm going to be really tired. And so I'm not going to like schedule a bunch of stuff to do during that time. Same like the first 3 days of my period, know? So yeah.
Yes. So when you're honoring yourself in that way, the people in your life will feel that energy and they will honor themselves and honor you.
Yes.
Because you're modeling that behavior for them.
Right.
And when people are in touch with that side of themselves, they recognize it in you, because when you messaged me and said this, I can't do it and this is why, you were very clear and you were very loving in the way that you presented the information. And I was like, I love that. She's doing that for herself, Yeah. I love that you're doing that for yourself. Like that was more important to me than having to reschedule. That was the piece in that interaction with you that stood out, was you honoring yourself.
Yeah.
And when we show up in our authenticity like that, we give others the opportunity, just like you did for me. You responded back with understanding and love.
Yeah.
And so then we had this entire sister exchange that was very loving and very holding and very respectful of ourselves and each other. Right. So, and sometimes we might express something like that and somebody might get pissed off at you.
Yeah.
Right?
I was just that was my next point.
That's going to tell you. Yeah. And that's going to tell you something too. Maybe that's a place then for some boundaries or to pull back a little or, or maybe it's an opportunity to attempt to have a very conscious conversation with that person. It really depends on the energy and the situation,
Yeah.
Oh, so true.
Yeah. I'm actually coming to this point.
Synchronistic.
Coming to this point in this conversation is very, very apt, isn't it? Yeah. Because we're dealing with something similar at the moment where we're learning our boundaries and we're learning, like I did something very similar to you where I knew I had a funeral on Wednesday, and which is 2 days ago, and I had to.
It was yesterday.
Is today Thursday?
Today's Friday.
Yeah, Wednesday was 2 days ago.
You went to the funeral yesterday, didn't you?
Oh, I did too.
Yeah.
Oh, time warp.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm sorry. I thought it was Wednesday.
I love that. What is time?
Yes.
What is time?
Yes.
Nobody.
I don't know why I felt so strongly to say that too, because I was just going to let you just keep going, but I felt like.
But it doesn't really matter in the end of the day.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't really matter.
Sorry.
No, you're right. But the point of the story is that I knew that emotionally I would have been spent by the end of the day.
Yeah.
I knew that. Because being in such an emotional...
I mean, yeah, you don't even have to explain.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't think many people would expect you to function very at your,
at my
highest,
peak, yeah. And so I didn't want to be around challenging people or have a challenging experience on the same day. And so I had to make some decisions around that. And I got some heat for it. Yeah, I got some heat for it.
And another reflection for me, which is a little bit different, because I'm on the side where I am kind of in that space where I haven't said anything yet, but I can still, there's no like letting anyone down, but it's just like not standing in that power yet because
yeah, you're deciding she's on the
I'm
threshold
on the
of
threshold,
moving in.
yeah, but I didn't realize I was on the threshold until this call, because what's come up for me is I am going on a bit of a holiday next week, and my friend is going to come up, and the details are kind of blurry at the moment. I don't know what day she's going to arrive there. It just so happened that we're going to be at the same town at the same time, and that's kind of all I know. And so I was asking her like all these questions, and she hasn't got back to me yet. I asked her yesterday, which is fine, but for me, I was holding back myself, not booking my hostel, not making any plans, relying on her to give me the answers. And
yes.
and I'm in discomfort now because, first of all, I'm really excited about this trip. I don't want to wait to book. I don't want to like hold myself back. And so it's like now I'm sitting in this energy of like just kind of twiddling my thumbs sort of thing. Like I want to do it, but I don't, like I'm waiting for someone else. Like I'm waiting for.
It's almost like you're waiting for permission.
Yeah, waiting. Yeah, it is like that. Like waiting for permission and not trusting that, like, because who knows, maybe I would book the hostel that I'm staying at and she ends up being at the same one. Or maybe she's not even staying at any hostel. Like the way that the universe works, we all know when you're acting in alignment and you're doing things with the intention of love and being yourself, then magic happens. So I've been spending the past 2 days just kind of, or day and a half, just kind of like, I want to book it, but
nervous energy.
Yeah, and like it really contained excitement because I don't want to like go out and show my excitement until I've heard from her, and that's what's creating so much.
That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what's creating so much discomfort. I think that's why this morning I'm feeling really heavy and it's all around my head because, obviously the waiting for an external thing that's like in your mind.
It's causing pressure.
Yeah, it's in my mind. I keep saying your, but I'm owning it. It's in my mind. It's like in my head. Yeah, it's stuck in my head. So I think after this call, I'm going to book the hostel.
Yay!
And just get it over and done with so I'm not thinking about it so much. Because what it's creating is like, all I'm thinking about is I want to book it. I want to book it. I want to book it. I can't focus on anything else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's a perfect example. Like everything in you is screaming, like, I want to, then do it.
Yeah.
This is exactly this is how it works,
Yeah.
And through that action, who knows what will emerge from that space that's resonant as well.
And when you act from that point of I'm excited and I want to do it, you might, if there is a lesson in it, because sometimes the excitement comes and then there's a lesson, like you've been looking forward to something and it doesn't work out the way that you've projected, like you've got it in your head.
Yeah.
So then if the lesson comes, you've come from that point of I want to do this, you're owning the lesson. So it doesn't really matter what happens after that because you've come from that place of I really want it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I'm glad I did because I'm glad that I waited to this point to see it because I didn't see it before. So I think if I did like go out and book the hostel, I would have done it out of that ungrounded excitement just because I couldn't handle it instead of going out there with the intention of this is what I want to do and being in my power of like owning this decision.
Yes.
I would have gone and booked it. That's why I haven't booked it yet. Because
you were waiting for this conversation.
Yes, I was, to see what was going on because I couldn't see it. I was so caught up in like, I just want to book it. and I wasn't like actually seeing where this energy was coming from. And I wouldn't have owned that decision. So if there was anything that came up from that, so say I did book it in that energy and then there was a lesson, I would have been like, well, you shouldn't have booked it. Oh my God. I'm all angry about booking it in that energy. Yeah.
Right. So it's almost like you're moving from an unconscious energy or an unintentional energy into a conscious and intentional energy, which a lot of this is even, what you were talking about with integrating the divine feminine is what do we feel? Trusting ourselves. It's time to act now. It's time to do this now. Knowing, trusting ourselves about energy that we're feeling from someone, you know, if we have a thought, if we have like an intuition about something, like not gaslighting ourselves, you know, not gaslighting ourselves, and knowing that, you know, our intuition is everything. It's our gut, man. It's our gut brain. This is the feminine. It's, you know, that gut knows. So, it's all a part of that, right?
Yes.
So true.
We were talking about our gut and intuition last week, remember?
Yes.
With our gorgeous friend Tracy. She had an intuition. Her friend invited her out for the evening, and her intuition just blocked her and just said, "No, you're not going."
Yeah.
Just a flat out no.
No, like other message. You know, I think we all know how it is. Just a plain no. I need to get the charger. Hang on.
And so her intuition told her no, she's not to go out. And I mean, this is quite massive actually. Her friend was murdered that evening, and if she had gone with her, she would have been with her and possibly been murdered as well.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
When she told us that story, we were just gobsmacked, like, you know. And if there's ever a lesson in a story, that's it. You just have to listen to your intuition, because even her mum was telling her, "Why aren't you going? You should be going with her." You know, why aren't she? Her mother pushed her to go and questioned her about why she didn't want to go. And she still said, "I just can't. I just don't want to go. I'm not feeling it."
Which is representative of the amount of work she's done to be able to stay in her sovereign knowing and say, no, doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks, what anyone else is thinking, you know, telling me I should do. I know this for myself. Yeah. It also shows us the immensity of how the messages which are coming in through us, through the divine, because we're source fractals, are always supporting us all the time. You know, like if we just trust, you know, and give it some space to happen for the magic to work, it does. It does. And the more that we give it a chance, the more we see the outcomes. Like that is like, you know, as profound an example as there could possibly be. And then the more self-trust grows, and once that starts happening, then we really come into those superpowers.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes. Like, I think but it takes so much practice. Like there are so many times, like still years into this journey of having an opportunity to go out and spending money on that ticket and then being like, oh, but I don't want to go. And then still going anyway. And then I'm there and I'm like, I wish I was at home. So it's like there's still so much. It just takes so much practice to. It's like building trust and building that muscle.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
It takes it takes so much energy to honor it a lot of the time, because there's so much of you fighting against it. Like at least in that example, it was like, no, but I spent money on this ticket, and there's like it doesn't take that much to go. It's just a bus and a train. Let's just do it. And I'm meeting these awesome like-minded people and making all these excuses to go and do it. But but I don't want to go. And then
and money is energy. Money is energy in this realm. And so sometimes that's like the price we've got to pay to learn the lesson too, you know?
Yes, so true. So true. I paid $33 for that lesson.
No kidding. 33.
Yeah.
Gotta love that number.
Yes.
Well, you're talking about
the broth night.
Yeah.
But actually at the same time though, that night that I did that, I actually ended up going to another event after, which was seeing my dad perform a Pink Floyd concert. And that was free for me, at least, not for everyone else. And I went to that, and
that's where you met your friend.
That's where I met my friend that I'm going to on the holiday with next week. So you know, it was meant to happen, of course, but it was just not that event. So,
Yes. So you're seeing the flow. You're seeing the organic flow, right? That's beautiful.
Well, we've been almost an hour.
Yeah,
how do you feel? Do you feel complete with this conversation?
I love talking to you ladies. I
Yeah.
feel complete. I think it was an amazing conversation.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
We loved it. We
Oh,
always
gosh.
love talking to you, Michelle.
I know.
Honestly, so much.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love talking to you, beautiful sisters as well. I love your connection is so gorgeous. I know I say that like every time, but it really is. You guys are really modeling something so beautiful.
Oh,
So
thank you. That's lovely for you to say
very grateful to be a part of that.
Yeah, we're grateful to have you on the show and for showing up with us and gracing us with your wisdom, because the way you express yourself and the way we interact with you, it just leaves us feeling so good. We're really grateful.
Yeah, really.
Awesome.
I mean,
awesome.
I started this call. Yeah, I started this call in such a different space. So I'm feeling very grateful to come on. And you're our first ever guest to have come on twice.
Yeah.
So
really?
Yes.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. Well, and
Yeah.
this is how it works. When source fractals connect and interact, we sort of combine our vibration and we do lift each other, So not that it's bad to be, where you were at before though either. Bad. It's okay. It's all okay. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. But it does feel better to be up here. So that's what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for it all, but I'm also grateful that I'm feeling better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Perfect.
Okay. So we'll close it off here. And do you want to ask the question?
Yes. Will you come back? Will you grace us with your presence again?
Of course.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
awesome.
I'm already looking forward to it. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And I hope you enjoyed. Thank you, Michelle. Sending love to everyone. See you next week.